Good morning, crime community. I may be leaving the vinyl community. I'm not sure. I'm here to read out. I'm transforming from the Manson file to The Poisoner in Chief by Stephen Kinzer. Need to talk a little bit about the Manson file before we begin this transition. After reading the Manson file, I can conclude that I disagree with Nick Schreck on a lot of things, especially to do with Susan Atkins and Anton LaVey. And we need to discuss sometime who we met on the ranch, who we're related to, and so on and so forth. So we're going to have to leave that behind now for all the experts in the field. This is another subject called The Poisoner in Chief. Has to do with MK Ultra, Mind Control Ultimate. First thing I'm going to say is I am an MK Ultra survivor. Okay? So I'm just going to read a little bit about this book, and we'll get into what it says. Kinzer's book is a Tarantino movie. Yeah, we can yet to be made. Yeah, we can't get away from Quentin, can we? He was mentioned in Nick's book, wasn't he? Yet to be made. It has the right combination of sick humor, pointless violence, weird tabloid characters, and sheer American waste. It is also frightening to read. Abnem Gopchik, The New Yorker, The Poisoner in Chief, Sidney Gottlieb. I was in the Gottlieb program before I knew the Sidley family. Now I got children related to the Gottliebs because I was put in the breeder program, the MK breeder program. All my children are intelligence assets. I have the media up my ass since I was 7 years old, like Charlie Manson. Let's continue reading. Sidney Gottlieb and the CIA Research for Mind Control, best-selling author of The Brothers and All the Shah's Men. Stephen Kinzer with a new afterword. Winding through the spy-loving Eisenhower Kennedy years, Kinzer's book is a Tarantino movie yet to be made. That's the right, yeah, we wrote all this already. Absolutely riveting. Stephen Kinzer's Poisoner in Chief reads like a spy thriller, but his revelations about the macabre career of CIA's Sidney Gottlieb are deeply disturbing. Kinzer's work uncovers once again the narrative power of biography to unearth our collective history. Carl Bird, Pulitzer Prize-winning co-author of American Prometheus, author of The Good Spy, and executive director of Leon Levy's Center of Biography. Stephen Kinzer takes the unusual approach of making Sidney Gottlieb, MK Ultra's program manager, the central figure of the story. Reflecting on Gottlieb's culpability, Mr. Kinzer is careful to place his story in historical context. The reader will have to decide how far to venture into this dark thicket, the Wall Street Journal. Stephen Kinzer has done a great public service with his absorbing and informative portrait of the life and career of Sidney Gottlieb, a CIA scientist who was the agency's Dr. No in the Cold War, a producer of poison pills, poison darts, and leader of the hunt for the perfect killing machine, a la The Manchurian Candidate, starring Frank Sinatra. Yeah, we talked about Frankie last book, didn't we? Frankie Carbo, huh? It's all in the bone-crunching detail, and Kinzer, a master of American perfidy, has done it again. Seymour M. Hersh. We talked about Seymour, too, didn't we? Author of Chain of Command, The Road from 9/11 to Abu Ghraib, and Reporter, a memoir. He's been called Mr. Death, Washington's official poisoner, and a mad scientist. But Sidney Gottlieb has never become a household name. Why not? He's related to a lot of famous people, dude. Now, pulling together a trove of existing research, nearly unearthed documents, and fresh interviews, Kinzer puts a fetid corpus of American empire back under a microscope. It isn't pretty, but it is instructive. The American Conservative. This book connects dots between former Nazi torturers, Organ's author, Ken Kesey, Boston mobster, Whitey Bulger. We were talking about Whitey in the last book. And an obscure CIA chemist who qualifies as the ultimate James Bond villain. Kinzer's startling reportage on Gottlieb's work among research in secret international detention cells can't help but evoke a more recent memory of Abu Ghraib and the like. Excuse me, the Seattle Times. The most powerful, important organs in the invisible government are the nation's bloated and unaccountable intelligence agencies. The best window we have into this shadow world comes from historical accounts of its crimes, including those of Stephen Kinzer's new book, Poisoner in Chief, by Chris Hedges. We've heard of him. It is an awful story, told fast and well. San Francisco Review of Books. Stephen Kinzer tells the story of Gottlieb, a chemist obsessed with finding a way to control the human brain, no matter how many innocent minds he destroyed in the process. New York Post. A stranger-than-fiction account of the CIA's efforts in the 50s, 60s, and 70s at developing mind control and chemical-based espionage methods, and a chemist, Sidney Gottlieb, who spearheaded the effort, the nigh unbelievable efforts he led as vividly and horribly recreated in the fascinating story. The best-selling author of All the Shah's Men and the Brothers tells the astonishing story of the man who oversaw the CIA's secret drug and mind control program in the 50s and 60s. It didn't end in the 60s, it's still going today. The visionary chemist Sidney Gottlieb was the CIA's master magician and gentle-hearted torturer. The agency's poisoner-in-chief, as head of the MK-Ultra mind control project, he directed brutal experiments at secret prisons in 3 continents. He made pills, powders, and potions that could kill or maim without a trace. His research into LSD wound up spreading the drug across the United States, making him a hidden godfather of the 1960s counterculture. That's not exactly true. Dr. Gottlieb, or Dr. Hoffman, invented LSD, and it was stolen from him by Timothy Leary. So Timothy Leary probably gave the formula to Sidney Gottlieb. That's the way it went down. Drawing on new documentary research and original interviews as Stephen Kinzer brings to life one of the most important unknown Americans of the 20th century, Gottlieb's reckless experiments destroyed many lives, including mine and most of my friends' lives. Yet he considered himself deeply spiritual. Charlie Manson was put in the program when he was 18 years old. I was put in the program when I was 11 years old in 1962. I could talk about it for 2 hours, but I'm not going to. He lived in a remote cabin without running water, meditated, and rose before dawn to milk his goats. His astonishing career at the intersection of extreme science and covert action reveals him as a clandestine conjurer on an epic scale. Kinzer's retelling of the MK-Ultra story is unsparing in its gruesome details and not overwrought. Kinzer's elevates Sidney Gottlieb to the proper place as one of the CIA's most influential and despicable characters. Sharon Weinberger, The New York Times Book Review. Though events recounting Kinzer's poisoner-in-chief took place a half a century ago, they're scandalous in a way that transcends time. The Daily Beast. St. Martin Press. Okay, we're going to leave it today, and we'll read the first chapter in the next few days. We'll thank you to all the members who watch my stream and think that I'm speaking any truth here at all. God bless anybody who's following my stream.